Imagine this. You're standing in front of a railway track, and you see a trolley hurtling towards 5 people tied down to the track. However, next to you is a lever that, when pulled, will divert the trolley onto a different track to which only 1 person is tied down. What would you do in that situation? Would you choose to pull the lever or not? Now, chances are you're already familiar with this scenario, as it is infamously known as the trolley problem. However, what if I changed it a bit? Let's say the 1 person is your lifelong best friend, and the other 5 are all convicted criminals. What would you do now? Would you still pull the lever? Now, chances are, for some of you, that answer has changed. And although there is no definitive answer on what is the right thing to do in any of these situations, your decision tells us a lot about who you are as a person, both logically and ethically. It is the first glance at what we refer to as your moral compass. Throughout my speech, I would like to dive deeper into what a moral compass is. Why is it important? Why is it so complex? Why can it be so overwhelming? Because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, ethics are the keystone to all decisions and relationships in this world. But first, we must have a good understanding of what a moral compass is. And to put it into simple terms, a moral compass is like a GPS. The same way a GPS navigates you through a city, a moral compass navigates you through life, separating right from wrong. And just like a GPS, it may sometimes feel unclear or uneasy to follow, but it is always there, and everybody has one, subtly influencing every single aspect of their life. But in order to truly have a good understanding of what a moral compass is, we must understand how one is formed. And that is because a moral compass is shaped over so many years, and a multitude of factors influences it. One of these factors is our unique upbringing. Our childhood memories and interactions influence how we perceive and view the world, how we form our opinions till today. And this is clearly seen in a study done by Harvard University's Center of the Developing Child, which claims that by age 7, a child's basic moral and worldview framework is already significantly shaped by their environment, including family values, culture, and socioeconomic status. Another thing that may influence how our moral compass is shaped is religion, because often religions dictate what is right and wrong and how we should behave throughout our lives. Another factor may be the people we surround ourselves with. Often the values and virtues of our friends and our family are reflected within ourselves. Hence, we can also see how smaller communities tend to share similar opinions and views on certain topics. Taking all of that into account, all those many things that shape our constantly evolving moral compass, we can conclude that when I asked you to make a decision regarding the trolley problem at the beginning of my speech, that decision that you have made is the cumulative result of years and years of living and interacting with this world. But why is a moral compass important in the first place? Well, in reality, a moral compass isn't just a philosophical ideology we all have. It is a decision-making tool we use on a daily basis, a foundation for how we live, speak, connect, and interact with the world throughout our lives. Its importance can be clearly seen throughout history, with many great philosophers such as Aristotle, Kant, or Hegel, all of which dedicated their lives into trying to find a definitive truth of what is right and wrong. An example of how ethics and a moral compass is used in modern-day society are elections. At face value, in elections, we are voting for a candidate. But in reality, we are voting for the candidate whose morals align most with ours. Therefore, if we do not take ethics into account when we're voting, for example, for a president, are we truly voting as intended? But a moral compass can often seem confusing. And that is because, unlike previously in history, where we would only interact and experience opinions of our local communities and the people we surround ourselves with, now with the inventions of the internet, social media, news outlets, and so many others, we are experiencing a globalization of opinions, where we can view and talk about world situations and problems from so many new perspectives and sides we would never even consider before. Hence, when we're discussing world problems such as global warming, economic recessions, war, and so many others, it may feel at first discouraging to discuss them in the first place, as with so many sides and variables, it is often hard to reach a consensus. This overload of information has also led to what we refer to as moral polarization, where people don't just disagree with others. They create ideological tribes that dislike and distrust anybody who thinks differently. This is exactly why having a moral compass is so important in the modern day world, a world so noisy and complex. It is the one thing that helps us stay grounded. It allows us to listen to others without losing ourselves. So how do we find a moral compass? In reality, it's impossible to understand our beliefs and values and our pre-existing moral compass without reflection. Therefore, if we want to truly understand how we perceive the world, we must reflect on our oldest memories, things we did that made us feel fulfilled, acts that made us feel guilty. We should think over our worldviews and opinions on even trivial matters. We should try and think of moments where we suppressed our emotions or memories in order to have a true grasp of who we are. We should also perhaps look at pre-existing philosophies, as there's a big chance that there are people out there who already share a similar view of ethics and morality to yours. Think about what influenced you in life, such as the thing we have previously mentioned before: religion, culture, social norms, traditions, our upbringing, and all the others. Think about these influences. Do you still agree with them? Or do some of them feel outdated, perhaps? Try and apply and view your beliefs in daily situations, such as when you're greeting a person, when you're having a conversation, or when you're apologizing to somebody. But at the end of the day, when we're trying to understand our moral compass, make sure that you're following beliefs that are truly yours. Following a code of ethics or morality that somebody else, just because somebody else believes isn't correct or right, will only lead to a lack of confidence, anxiety, and guilt in the things that we do. In summary, a moral compass is the one decision-making tool that guides us through life and decides what we view and perceive as right and wrong. It is constantly changing and evolving, and it takes shape over so many years of our life, a direct result of what we stand for, of our opinions, of our decisions and interactions. Therefore, it is so important in modern day society. And that is why I ask you that when you're faced with the trolley problem, or a more real, more personal dilemma within your life, I ask you to please take a step back and reflect on whether you truly believe that the things you are doing are right. Thank you.